So, what I'm talking about is tying knots. I'm gonna be teaching you some basic knots, and in order to do that, I will put on my sailor's hat. Now, I know this is a cowboy hat, but this is the hat I always take when I go sailing, so bear with it. It's my sailing style. And yeah, it's inspired by someone you might recognize if you watch anime. So, let's begin with the knots. In order to do these knots, you will need 2 ropes. Most of them can be done using only one, but if you have 2, it's better, alright? So, actually the first one I'm going to teach you just needs 1 rope. So, let's go get 1 rope. And this knot is called the bowline knot, and it's basically, if you know this knot that I'm going to teach you, you are good for 99% of the cases that you will encounter on a boat. This knot is one of the most useful knots in sailing and in general, and this knot is so useful and so old that it has been found still tied on ancient Egyptian tombs. That's how old and effective this knot has been, and it stood the test of time. This knot is extremely effective. Let's show. So, the first thing you want to do, you want to grab the piece of rope, the loose end here, and what I do is I loop the rope around my finger. See, just to create a small loop. You can do it however you want. You can just twist it like this. I usually loop it around my finger and I take it off. Now, you want to keep it like this, right? Keep the loop pressed. And what you're going to do, you're going to put the loose end through the loop. Like this. Through the loop. And now it goes back from the larger rope around it and through the loop again, and it ties. You pull this one to tie it, and you have it. This is called the bowline knot. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it closer to the camera. Loop it around your finger. Get this hole. Pass it through the hole, around the bigger rope, and through the hole again. Hold it here and pull this one. There you go. Now, you can make this knot however big you want. You can make it very large, like this. What's important is that you always follow the same procedure. See, much larger now. And yeah, as long as this knot is done, you can pull however much you want. It will not go anywhere. Unless, of course, you pull with so much strength that you actually rip the rope apart. But that's not the knot's fault, that's the rope's fault. This knot is virtually impossible to break. I'm gonna do it one more time, quick fashion now. You have this, loop around your finger, through the hole, around the rope, and through the hole again, pull, and it's done. This knot is useful for almost any situation on a boat, and if you need to mend something or put something very tight, and like I don't want it to go anywhere, use this knot. Bowline knot. Now, let's move on to another knot that uses just one rope. Let's do them all on one rope first, this knot, you might think it has no use at first, but I will tell you the historic context of why this knot exists, and then I will tell you some useful cases for this knot. This knot is called the figure of 8, and it clearly makes an 8 when you knot it. I will show you later. Like, look, it looks like a small 8. That's why it's called the figure of 8. Now, you may be thinking, what is the useful of having just one? Well, in the past, what sailors would do was they would strap a bunch of these knots together on a rope, as I'm doing right now to show you. Just one more. I'm going to do one more just to make it. Alright, we have 4 now. Look, we have 4 of these, and as you can see, they are roughly the same distance. What was it used for? If you've guessed already, this was used to measure the speed of a boat. So, this would be done on a much larger rope, and the distance between these knots would be bigger, but the important part is that the distance between each knot is the same. And when you have a cable like this, what you would do, you would tie this end to a bucket or something, and you would throw it overboard. And as you throw it overboard, you let the knots slide. You let the knots slide through your hand, and as they slide through your hand, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, and you count that for a specific amount of time. And with that specific amount of time, you would be able to calculate the speed of your ship. Very clever, don't you think? So, imagine, what speed are we going? I don't know, let's go. We throw it, and then it goes 1, 2, 3, but not 4. So, we're going 3 knots per whatever unit of time we're using, probably per hour, probably. I don't know, but that's how they used to measure this, and that's why the speed of boats is measured in knots, because people used this knot system to measure speed of boats, and the term became like the standard. The boat goes at a certain knot. Now, what was the problem? The problem was that in each boat, in each ship, whoever was tying this cable was not going to make it the same distance. So in the past, knots, the speed in knots was not accurate, because the speed of one ship in knots would be much different from the speed of another ship in knots. But now it is standardized, and this is the origin of these knots and why it is used. But nowadays, it is most used like if you imagine your rope slides through like a hole or something, and you don't want it to slide past a certain point, you put this knot and you pull it, and it's not going anywhere. That's the most used case of this knot nowadays. And now let's move on to another very interesting knot. Let me just undo this once. Alright, now another knot, and this knot is used when you go on the docks and you see all the boats side by side, and they have those buoys hanging on, so they don't hit each other. I mean, they're going to hit each other, but what hits each other is the buoys and not the boats. It protects the boats. The knot you use to tie those buoys is called the glove hitch knot, and this is a special knot because it's a constrictor knot. So, what is a constrictor knot? A constrictor knot is a knot that is only being useful as long as there's force applied. If there's no force, the knot won't work. So I'm going to show you. this knot, usually you just need one rope, and usually you tie it around something. So I'm going to use my finger, and what you're going to do is you want to put the around, like leave it hanging. All right. Now it goes over. Yeah, pick it up, go over, and make sure it crosses. Make sure it crosses the already rope there. All right. So it's back down and it's crossing over here. And what you're gonna do is then you're gonna go behind it, and as it's crossing like this, you're gonna pull. Now, the way to know if this knot is working or not is to see when you finish the knot, you have to have one end in one direction and the other end in the other direction. And now you have to make sure this, like this, it's going over each other, alright? So, what I said about the constrictor knots before, if I'm pulling, this knot won't go anywhere. I'm pulling right now, it's not moving and it's applying pressure on my finger. But as soon as I stop, I can pull it out very easily. See? But it's still one of the most useful knots. As long as force is being applied, this knot will never undo. That's why it's so useful on the buoys cases. Because think of it like this. When you are sailing away from the dock, you want to take the buoys away really quick. And what better than a knot that immediately unties if you stop applying pressure. So the buoys hang on the boat, and as long as they are hanging, they will now not go anywhere because of the nature of this knot. So they are hanging, let's say. They are hanging. As long as they are hanging, they are not going anywhere. But I've sailed away from the dock, and I say, now let's take the buoys away. Alright, I'll just pull. It's off. It's an amazing knot. Now, we're going to move on to the knots that use 2 ropes. So, some of these can be done with just 1 rope if you use both ends, but I'm going to use 2 ropes. The first knot that I'm going to show you that uses 2 ropes, it's called the square knot. And why is that? You're going to see in a minute. Now, the square knot is useful in boating when you have 2 separate ropes and you want to tie them together to make a bigger rope. So what you do, you use the square knot. And how does it go? Very simple. Take one end of the rope and the other end of the other rope and put one above the other. Now, make sure to remember, the one that is below goes around the rope. Alright? And now, you start over, but backwards, instead of pointing. Let's go again. This one, start with the right one. It goes below the left one. It goes below. And the one that goes below goes around. Alright? Now, you still have the right one on this side. Now, the right one goes above and around again. And now you can see now on this stage why it's called a square knot. Because it makes a square. And as soon as you tie it, you have 2 ropes united now. 2 ropes are now tied together. And this knot, as long as if you pull, it's not going anywhere. And it's easy to untie as well. You just pull one end. It unties very easily. I'm gonna do it again. Right one goes below at first and around the rope. Right one again goes above and around, and it makes a square. Then you pull and you have the square knot. Now, this knot only works if you're trying to unite same width, alright? If they are different widths, it's not going to work. But there's a knot that works for ropes of different widths, and it uses the same concept, alright? This one is called the shit band. There are two ways of making the shit band, and I'm going to show you both ways. You go like this. Go below, around, above, around, alright? And now you're in the square knot. Now, what you do here to go to the shit band is you undo this one, alright? And this one goes around and between, and then you just pull, and it's done. This knot is used to unite ropes of different widths, but this, in my opinion, is not the best way of doing this knot. Some prefer it, but most people will do it like what I'm going to do now. Now, what we want to do is, imagine this is the thicker rope. What you're going to do is twist it, leave it like this, alright? Leave it like this. Now, the smaller rope goes inside, around, alright, around, and in between itself, like this. And then you pull, and you have united the cables. I'm gonna do it again. This is the thick rope. Twist it around. The smaller rope goes inside, then around, and then inside between those two. You want to have something like this, and then you just pull, and as you pull, you have united two cables of different widths, and this knot will not go anywhere as long as the rope holds the weight. And those were all the knots I wanted to teach you today for sailing purposes. There are a lot of other knots that are useful and that you can practice. Now, my biggest advice is practice them with your eyes closed, because in a sailing situation there will be times where you will have to tie a knot without looking at what you're doing. So being able to do these knots with your eyes closed is great. So let's go over all the knots again with my eyes closed, and hopefully I'll be able to do them. Now, let's start with the one rope ones. We'll do the bow line first. I hope. Okay, I'm in the camera. Let's go. Create the hole. Go inside the loop. Around. And inside the loop again. And you have the bow line. Now, the figure of 8. Go around itself, in the back, over, and then through itself, and then pull. Figure of 8. The one that goes on your finger. Do it like this. Cross. Make sure it crosses and goes like this. And yeah. And now the knots there are for 2 ropes with my eyes closed. This one is the easiest to do with your eyes closed. It's very easy. Go below and around. Go above and around. Square. Done. And then this is the one that took me the most time to practice, and I still sometimes get it back. Big rope, twist it around. Where is the end? It's here. Go inside, around. Oh, I already feel lost. Oh, come on, wait, I have to start. itself. And there you go. Practice makes perfect. These were some of the knots that I use when I'm sailing, and I hope you found this video relaxing. I hope if you didn't fall asleep and you followed through my tutorial, I hope my instructions were clear, and I hope you could follow along, or if you're already asleep, then sleep tight. And thank you all for watching. You make my day every time I see a comment from you, or every time I receive your likes. I love you all, and I will see you next week for more. Bye bye. Bye bye. Happy sailing in the sea of